She typed it with one hand. The other hand was pressed against the closet door, holding it shut with everything she had left. Which wasn't much. Her shoulder was on fire. Her vision was swimming. And the man on the other side of that door was done pretending to be patient. 3 words. That's all she managed. Please help me. She hit send. Didn't check the number. Didn't check anything. Her phone screen was cracked and smeared, and the contacts list had blurred into nonsense through tears she couldn't wipe away. She thought she was texting her sister. She wasn't. 3 seconds. That's how long it took for the reply to appear. 3 small dots, then 5 words that would change everything. Send your location. Now. She didn't know who she'd just reached. She didn't know that the man reading her message at 11:47 on a Thursday night in downtown Seoul was sitting in a room where a single phone call from him could rearrange the power structure of an entire city. She didn't know his name. She didn't know what he was capable of, but in exactly 14 minutes, she would find out. And so would the man trying to get through that closet door. Stay with me until the very end, because what happens when the most dangerous man in Seoul answers a stranger's cry for help will shatter everything you think you know about power, mercy, and why some people were put on this earth to protect others. Before we get into it, like this video right now, subscribe if you haven't, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Let's go. Let me take you back 4 hours. Nara Williams had cooked dinner that night. Jollof rice, the recipe her grandmother had taught her when she was 12. The kind that takes 2 hours if you do it right, because the tomato base has to reduce until it's thick and sweet and the rice absorbs every ounce of flavor. She'd set the table with care. 2 plates, 2 glasses, cloth napkins she'd ironed that morning. A small candle in the center because it was Thursday, and Thursdays used to be their date night back when things were still good. Back when Darren still noticed things like iron napkins. Darren came home at 9, late. He was always late now. His tie was loosened, his collar was wrong, and there was a scent on him that wasn't his cologne. Nara knew. She'd known for weeks, but knowing and confronting were different countries, separated by a border made of fear. How was work? She asked, keeping her voice even, keeping her hands busy, spooning rice onto his plate. Fine. His voice carried no information, just sound filling silence. They ate without talking. The candle flickered between them like a small, desperate prayer. Nara watched Darren's phone screen light up 3 times during the meal. Each time, his eyes flicked down. Each time, a micro-expression crossed his face. Not guilt, something worse, irritation, like the phone was reminding him of somewhere he'd rather be. After dinner, she washed the dishes. He sat on the couch, scrolling through his phone. The apartment was quiet in the way that a room gets quiet before a storm. Not peaceful, pressurized. Nara dried her hands on the kitchen towel and said the words she'd been rehearsing in her head for 3 days. I think we should talk about what's happening. Darren didn't look up from his phone. What's happening is I had a long day and I'd like to relax. Darren, please, I know something's going on. The late nights, the phone calls. I just want us to be honest with each. He stood up so fast the coffee table shifted. Don't. His voice had changed, dropped into that register, the one that made her stomach hollow out, the one she'd learned to recognize over 2 years of mapping his moods like a sailor maps weather. I'm not doing this tonight, Nara. Then when? Because we never. I said not tonight. Something shattered. Not a dish, not a glass. Something inside the air between them, the last thin membrane of pretense that had been holding their lives together. What happened next, Nara would replay in her mind 1,000 times. The chair that tipped, the table that caught her hip, the wall that met her shoulder with a sound that wasn't loud but was absolute. The moment her feet left the floor, not from a push exactly, but from a force that didn't care what label you gave it. She landed on the hardwood. Her shoulders screamed. Her vision flashed white, then gray, then slowly came back in pieces. The ceiling fan. The light fixture. Darren's shoes, expensive, Italian leather, standing 3 feet away. Why do you make me do this? His voice was shaking now, not from remorse. From the specific kind of fury that comes when someone forces you to see yourself clearly and you hate the reflection. "I told you not tonight. I told you." Nara didn't speak. She'd learned that speaking made it worse. She lay very still and waited for his breathing to slow. Waited for the shoes to turn, to walk away, to give her the 30 seconds she needed. He went to the bathroom. She heard the tap running. He always washed his hands afterward, like he was cleaning something invisible off his skin. Nara moved, not fast. Fast would make noise. She crawled to the hallway. Her shoulder was wrong. She couldn't lift her left arm above her waist. The bedroom closet had a lock, a small one, enough to buy minutes, not hours. She made it inside, turned the lock, pressed her back against the door and slid down to the floor. Her phone was in her back pocket. She pulled it out with her right hand. The screen was cracked from the fall. Her contacts swam behind the spiderweb of broken glass. She needed Amara, her sister. Amara lived 40 minutes away, but she'd come. She'd always come. She'd said it 100 times, "You call me, anytime, any night, I'll come." Nara scrolled with her thumb. The names blurred. The letters rearranged themselves through pain and tears. She found what she thought was Amara's name and typed 3 words. "Please help me." Added the address. 304 Hannum Tower, Unit 1402. Hit send. The reply came in 3 seconds. Not, "I'm coming, sis." Not, "Are you okay?" Not anything Amara would say. Who is this? Nara's heart dropped through the floor. Wrong number. She'd texted a stranger. While Darren was 4 rooms away. While the bathroom tap was still running. While the clock was still ticking on whatever thin patience he had left. She typed again, faster, messier, one-handed. "Wrong number. I'm sorry, but please. My husband hurt me. I'm locked in the closet. I can't feel my arm. 304 Hannum Tower, Unit 1402 Seoul. Please, someone help." 3 seconds of silence. Then, "Don't move. Don't make a sound. I'll be there in 12 minutes. Nara stared at the words. Who responds like that? Who reads a stranger's desperate message at 11:47 p.m. and answers in 3 seconds with a precise arrival time? She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt something she hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. What Nara didn't know, what she couldn't possibly know, was that the phone that received her message was sitting on a mahogany desk in a private room at the Sapphire Lounge in Gangnam. And the man who picked it up, who read her words, who replied in 3 seconds flat, was Kang Sung-ho, head of Seoul's most powerful underground syndicate, a man who controlled shipping lanes, real estate empires, and security networks across 4 countries. A man whose name was spoken in whispers by people who spoke about everyone else at full volume. And a man who, 14 years ago, had listened through a bedroom wall as his mother made the same kind of sounds Nara was making right now. Sounds he'd been too small, too young, too powerless to stop. He was not too small anymore. Sung-ho stood from his chair. His lieutenant, Moon Jae-won, looked up from his laptop. What's wrong? Sung-ho was already putting on his coat. His movements were precise, controlled, terrifying in their calm. We're leaving, now. 2 teams, medical kit in the second car. Where are we going? Hannum Tower, Unit 1402. 12 minutes. Boss, we're in the middle of... J1. Sung-ho's voice was quiet. It was always quiet. That's what made it dangerous. A woman just sent me a text she meant for someone else. She's hurt. She's locked in a closet. And there's a man in that apartment who put her there. We're leaving now. Jae-won closed his laptop without another word. He'd worked for Sung-ho for 11 years. He'd seen the man negotiate deals worth hundreds of millions without raising his pulse. He'd seen him dismantle rivals with the patience of a surgeon, but he'd never heard that specific tone in his voice. The tone of a man who was about to keep a promise he made to himself a very long time ago. The bathroom tap turned off. Darren's footsteps crossed the living room. Stopped. Nara? Where are you? Silence. Nara. She pressed her hand over her mouth. Her phone screen dimmed. She couldn't risk the light. Couldn't risk the sound of another incoming message. Her shoulder throbbed with every heartbeat. A deep, wet ache that told her something was wrong beyond bruising. She cradled her left arm against her body and tried to breathe without making noise. His footsteps moved down the hallway. Slow, deliberate. The walk of a man who had all the time in the world and wanted her to know it. He reached the closet. The handle turned. Caught on the lock. Open the door, Nara. His voice was soft now. Reasonable. The voice he used in public, with colleagues, with her family on holidays. The performance voice. Don't be dramatic. I barely touched you. She didn't answer. I'm going to count to 5. If this door isn't open by 5, I'm taking it off the hinges. You know I can. She knew he could. He'd done it before. The bathroom door last March. He'd replaced it the next day and told the building manager it was water damage. 1. Nara looked at her phone. No new messages. 11 minutes had passed since the stranger's reply. 1 more minute. If the stranger was real, if anyone was actually coming. 2. She heard him shift his weight. Heard the leather of his shoe creak against the hardwood. 3. Her phone buzzed. She smothered it against her chest. The message read, outside the building. Which floor? 14, she typed back. 1402, he's at the closet door. Please hurry. 4. 30 seconds, stay low. 5. Darren's shoulder hit the door. The lock held, barely. The frame groaned, dust sifted from the hinge mounts. He hit it again, harder. The frame cracked, then, a sound from the front of the apartment. Not a knock, something heavier, something that made the walls vibrate. The apartment's front door opened, not burst, not crashed. Opened. With the quiet, surgical authority of someone who had a key to every door in the city, or the means to make one in seconds. Darren froze mid-stride. Footsteps entered the apartment. Multiple, measured. The sound of expensive shoes on hardwood, moving in coordinated precision. Who the hell? Darren's voice cut off, not because someone silenced him, because he turned the corner from the hallway into the living room and saw what was waiting for him. 3 men in dark coats. 2 flanked the entrance with the stillness of people trained to wait for orders and execute them without pause. The third stood in the center of the room. Kang Sung-ho, 6 feet tall, black overcoat over a charcoal suit. A scar on his left hand that ran from knuckle to wrist, the kind that comes from catching a blade meant for someone else. Eyes that held no anger, no expression at all. Just assessment, a predator measuring the dimensions of a problem. Who are you? Darren's voice cracked. This is my apartment, you can't just. Sung-ho didn't look at him. He looked past him, down the hallway. Toward the closet with the cracked door frame. He spoke in Korean to Jae-won, 2 words. Jae-won moved immediately toward the closet, his voice low and gentle. Ma'am? My name is Moon Jae-won. You texted our number. We're here. You're safe now. Can you open the door? Inside the closet, Nara heard a voice that wasn't Darren's. A voice that was calm and specific and utterly certain. She reached up with her good hand and turned the lock. The door opened. Jae-won saw her immediately. Left arm hanging wrong, shoulder swollen through her blouse. Eyes red, face streaked, breathing shallow. He didn't touch her. He crouched to her level and held out his hand, palm up, and waited for her to take it on her own terms. She did. As Jae-won helped Nara to her feet, Sung-ho turned his attention to Darren. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't make threats. He simply walked toward the man until they were 3 feet apart, and he studied him the way an architect studies a building scheduled for demolition. You're going to sit down, Sung-ho said. His English was precise, accented, unhurried. You're going to place your hands on your knees, and you're going to answer every question I ask. Nod if you understand. Darren was shaking. Not from cold, from the sudden, absolute realization that the rules of his world, the rules that had always protected him, the rules that said men like him could do what they did behind closed doors and no one with power would ever care, those rules had just been rewritten by a man who made his own. He sat down. He placed his hands on his knees. The medical team arrived 7 minutes later. 2 people, a woman and a man, carrying equipment that spoke of training beyond any normal first response certification. They treated Nara in the bedroom with the door closed. Dislocated shoulder, they told her. Significant bruising along her left side. A hairline fracture in her collarbone that would need imaging to confirm. Nara sat on the edge of the bed she shared with Darren, the bed she would never sleep in again, and let these strangers tend to her injuries with hands that were warm and competent and gentle. "Who are you people?" she asked quietly. "We work for Mr. Kang," the woman said, resetting the shoulder with a practiced motion that made Nara gasp. "You sent a message to his personal number. He doesn't get many messages on that line. The ones he does get, he takes very seriously." "I texted the wrong number." The woman smiled. "Maybe, or maybe you texted the right one." In the living room, Sung-ho sat across from Darren. He hadn't touched the man, hadn't raised his voice, hadn't needed to. His presence was the threat. The 3 men standing behind him were simply punctuation. "How long?" Sung-ho asked. "I don't know what how long have you been hurting her?" Darren's jaw worked. His eyes darted toward the door, calculating escape routes that didn't exist. "It's not what you think," she provokes. Sung-ho raised one hand, just slightly, palm up, fingers spread, the universal gesture of stop. And Darren stopped, mid-sentence, as though the air had been cut from his lungs. "I didn't ask why, I asked how long." Silence. "I'll rephrase." Sung-ho's voice dropped half a register. "The medical team has documented her injuries, current injuries, but a dislocated shoulder reduces more easily when the joint has been weakened by previous damage. The bruising pattern on her side suggests repeated contact over months, not a single incident. So, I ask again, and I will only ask once more, how long?" Darren's composure finally broke. 2 years. His voice was barely a whisper, but I never meant, "Stop." Sung-ho stood. The movement was slow, unhurried, devoid of aggression. Somehow, that made it worse. "Here is what's going to happen. You're going to sign every document my lawyer puts in front of you. The apartment transfers to her. Every account, every asset, divided on her terms. You're going to agree to this because the alternative requires a conversation that neither of us wants to have in front of witnesses. You can't do this." Darren was sweating now. "I have rights. I'll call the police." Sung-ho paused at the hallway entrance. He turned back, and for the first time, something flickered across his stone-carved expression. Not anger, something colder. "The man who owns the building you're sitting in is me. The judge who handles family matters in this district plays golf with my attorney every Saturday. The chief of police in Yongsan has my personal number saved on his phone. And the woman you've been hurting for 2 years just sent a message to the one person in this city who has both the ability and the will to dismantle your entire existence without raising his voice. Please, call whoever you'd like. I have time." Darren didn't call anyone. Nara was moved to a private suite at the Shilla Hotel that same night. She didn't ask how it was arranged. She didn't have the energy to ask anything. She sat on a bed softer than anything she'd ever slept on and stared at the skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows while a doctor, a real doctor, not a field medic, confirmed the hairline fracture and fitted her with a proper sling. Her sister Amara arrived at 1 in the morning, frantic, crying, asking questions Nara couldn't answer yet. "Who brought you here?" Amara demanded. "How did you get out?" Nara showed her the text exchange. 3 messages sent, 3 replies received. Total elapsed time from "please help me" to "outside the building." 12 minutes. Amara stared at the phone. "Who is this person?" "I don't know." Nara's voice was flat with exhaustion. I texted the wrong number, Amara. I was trying to text you. Amara's face crumbled. You were trying to reach me, and you got. She looked at the phone again. Whoever this is instead. He came in 12 minutes. Nara met her sister's eyes. You live 40 minutes away. He was there in 12.
The silence that followed said everything neither of them could.
Sung-ho didn't visit that night. He sent J1 instead, with a folder containing 3 things. A temporary restraining order already filed through a judge who processed it at midnight without complaint. The name and contact information of the city's best family law attorney, and a handwritten note on plain white paper. The note read, "You texted the wrong number. I'm glad you did. Take whatever time you need. When you're ready, my attorney will handle everything. You won't pay a single won. KS." Nara held the note for a long time. She'd spent 2 years convinced that she was invisible, that what happened in her apartment didn't matter because she didn't matter, that she was too small, too quiet, too alone for anyone powerful enough to change her situation to notice she existed. A wrong digit on a cracked phone screen had proven her wrong. Over the following week, Sung-ho's team moved with quiet efficiency. His attorney, Park Mi-young, was a woman who looked like someone's grandmother and litigated like a surgical instrument. She filed 13 separate motions in 4 days. Asset documentation, property transfer, a formal complaint that Darren's employer received on Monday morning. Darren attempted to fight it. He hired his own lawyer. His lawyer made 3 calls, learned who was on the other side of the case, and immediately advised Darren to sign everything. He signed. The apartment was Nara's by Friday. She didn't move back in. Couldn't. The closet door frame was still cracked, and she didn't want to look at it every day. She sold the unit through Sung-ho's real estate contacts and used the money to put a deposit on a small studio near her sister's neighborhood. She had her own space, her own door, her own lock that no one else had a key to. 2 weeks after the text, Nara's phone buzzed. "How is the shoulder?" She stared at the message. Same number, same contact she still hadn't saved under a name, because naming him would make it real, and real things could be taken away. She typed back, "Healing. The doctor says 6 weeks. Good. If you need anything, this number doesn't change." She almost put the phone down. Almost let the conversation end there. Clean and simple. A rescue completed. A debt implied, but never spoken. Instead, she typed, "Can I ask you something?" "Yes." "Why did you reply in 3 seconds?" The 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. A full minute passed. The longest 3 seconds she'd never experienced. Then, because when I was 9 years old, my mother sent a message that nobody answered. By the time someone came, it was too late. I made a decision that night. I would never be the person who doesn't answer. I would never be 3 seconds too slow. Nara set the phone down. She pressed her hand against her mouth. She cried for the first time since that night. Not from pain, not from fear, from the crushing, beautiful realization that her accidental message had reached the one person on earth who understood exactly what it meant to send a text and pray that someone, anyone, would care enough to come. Months passed. Nara built a life. Not the life she'd imagined when she first moved to Seoul from Lagos at 22 with a business degree and a head full of plans. Not the life she'd settled for with Darren either. Something new. Something that was entirely, stubbornly hers. She took a position at a non-profit that assisted foreign women navigating the Korean legal system. Her own experience, her fluency in English, Korean, and Yoruba, and her understanding of what it felt like to be trapped in a country that wasn't yours with a person who wasn't safe, made her invaluable. Sung-ho and Nara texted. Not every day. Not in the desperate, urgent way of their first exchange. Slowly. Carefully. The way 2 people communicate when both of them understand that trust is built in millimeters, not miles. He told her about his shipping business, the legitimate one. She told him about her clients, the women who came to her office with stories that echoed her own, each one a variation on the same terrible theme. Someone I trusted hurt me, and no one came. I want to change that, Nara texted one evening. The no one came part. I want to build something where someone always comes. Tell me what you need. She didn't ask for money. She asked for connections. Introductions to lawyers, housing agencies, translators, medical professionals who understood trauma. She asked for the architecture of a safety network. Sung-ho provided everything, not as charity, as partnership, because he recognized in Nara the same quality that had made her text a stranger at 11:47 p.m. on the worst night of her life. Courage. The reckless, desperate, world-changing kind of courage that doesn't calculate odds before acting. The organization was called the Wrong Number Project. Nara named it herself, with a smile that held equal parts pain and humor. Because every woman they helped had the same story at its core. Someone who'd been told no one was coming. Someone who'd accepted that she was alone. Someone who discovered, against every expectation, that help existed in the most unlikely places. Within a year, the project had assisted 147 women. Some needed legal help. Some needed housing. Some needed medical care. Some needed all three. And some just needed to know that if they sent a text at midnight, someone would answer in 3 seconds. Sung-ho visited the office once, early on. He stood in the doorway in his dark coat and surveyed the small space. 3 desks, a waiting area with second-hand chairs, a wall covered in thank you cards written in 9 different languages. "You did this," Nara said. "You did this." He corrected her without emphasis. "I just answered a text." They stood in the silence that had become their language, the silence that meant more than words. That carried the weight of a closet door, a cracked phone screen, a 3-second reply that had rewritten both their lives. One evening, months later, they sat across from each other at a small restaurant in Itaewon. Not a business dinner, not a strategic meeting, just 2 people sharing a meal, the way people do when they've stopped pretending they don't matter to each other. "I saved your number," Nara said. "Finally. Took me 6 months. What name did you file it under?" She showed him her phone. The contact read, 3 seconds. Sung-ho looked at the screen for a long time. His jaw tightened. His eyes burned with something he'd spent 30 years refusing to show anyone. "My mother's name was Sung-mi," he said quietly. "She was a seamstress in Busan. She worked 12 hours a day. She was kind to everyone. She made my school uniform by hand because she couldn't afford to buy one. And one night, when I was 9, she needed someone to answer. And nobody did." He paused. The restaurant noise faded to nothing. "Every time my phone buzzes, I think of her. Every time I see an unknown number, I think, what if this is the one? What if this is the message that matters? What if 3 seconds is the difference between someone living and someone not?" Nara reached across the table and took his hand. She'd spent 2 years with a man who never heard her, even when she screamed. Now she sat across from a man who'd heard her from across a city, through a wrong number, in 3 seconds. Some people are brought into your life by accident, some by design, and some by a cracked phone screen and a thumb that landed 1 digit away from where it was supposed to. Nara didn't believe in accidents anymore. She texted, "Please help me," to the wrong number. But sometimes the wrong number is the only right answer. If this story hit you somewhere deep, smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not already in this family. And turn on notifications because the next story is going to wreck you even harder. Now drop a comment and tell me, if you got a stranger's desperate text at midnight, what would you do? Would you answer? Would you go? Or would you look at the screen and put the phone back down? Be honest, I read every single comment. And if you know someone who needs to hear this story tonight, someone who thinks nobody would come if they called, send them this video. Because sometimes the right message finds the wrong number, and that wrong number turns out to be the person who saves your life. I'll see you in the next one.